Hey, 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 hey.
Hey y'all.
Welcome to another show, another time. Unfiltered and intentional. Thanks for tuning in now, later, tomorrow, when you have nothing else to do and you're tired of the world. Thank you for
Entire
tuning in.
world is nuts.
Thank you for tuning in. No, all honestly, and it's so funny. The very first comment, thanks, Alistair. He says, Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, everyone had a relaxing weekend and ready to get back to the grind tomorrow. Don't remind me about tomorrow, please, please. I don't need to be reminded, but thank you, though, for that. Are you ready to get back to the grind of it?
Yeah, and I have workaholic issues, so it's
Okay.
like
That's
sometimes.
that's fine. That's fine. But before we get into talking about the return of Jim Crow 2.0, I
Mhm.
definitely want to give a shout out. As the new administration would say, this is all DEI talk bullshit. Um, we're going to talk about a little bit about Women's History Month, just to give a shout out to Ida B. Wells, American journalist.
Okay.
Just some information for those of you who do not know anything about her. If I had to bring somebody back from the past, it would be her.
Oh,
She
wow.
was an African American that talked about the lynchings that were going on. And the
Hmm.
thing that I loved about her and her whole her documentation, her research that she did was when they were like, "You don't talk about it. We don't want this stuff to be in the newspaper." She wrote it anyway, and she had a shotgun, and she was like, "I wish a mother effing would tell me not to write my stuff." So she was somebody that talked about lynchings in the African American community, and she was a part of the anti-lynching campaign as well. She also was one of the founders of the NAACP and fought for women's suffrage. The last fun fact about her, about Ida B. Wells, is that when the founder of the women's suffrage was like, "Hey, can you march with us and be a part of this thing?" They told her to go in the back, and she said, "No, no, no, no. We will walk in the front hand in hand with you, or we're not participating at all because we are at this table too." So at the end of the day, we want to give a shout out to Ida B. Wells, an American journalist. That's who I would bring back. Yay.
Hey,
All
there
right.
you go.
Now we're going to get into some other stuff. Of course, like and subscribe on YouTube. Yay, yay, yay. And now we got to unfortunately talk about some craziness.
And
So
we
today's
positive comment before we dive too deep. You got Centaurus saying hola, and we made it through another week. Thank God. It's a little touch and go these days, but we're making it.
so with saying that, I wanted to talk about segregation. A lot of things have been coming up on the news, or you maybe have somebody send it to you through chat or whatever. Your social media let you know. The Trump administration basically has been gutting a lot of civil rights offices in the federal government. And
Hmm.
these agencies help with violations. So maybe somebody was violating you in the ICE administration, for immigration, or maybe somebody was doing something in the DOD or whatever the case may be. You're going to these civil rights offices to open up investigations. Well, they're not there anymore.
Hmm.
Also, a new law had just been passed that federal contractors um, they can they eliminated, excuse me, segregation in regards to the bathrooms, dining areas, waiting rooms, water fountains. Lyndon B. Johnson signed this act in 1965 where federal contractors could not segregate, basically.
Hmm.
So when you go into the federal buildings, it isn't a whites only bathroom, it isn't a whites only dining room or facilities. It
Hmm.
was for everybody.
Right.
But I think 3 days ago, if I'm not mistaken,
'This week, yep.
2 or 3 days ago, Donald Trump and his administration signed an executive order to get rid of that, to abolish it. Just for you guys to know, they did not get rid of the civil rights movement. But even though they didn't get rid of it, this is going to be something that is challenged now because now the federal government has gotten rid of it. What
Right.
else can happen? So my question for you and audience: how are you feeling about that?
So, well, look, for the longest, ever since he came out with his little slogan that he was going to make America great again, anybody that watches the show will know that I have questioned and questioned and questioned. Clearly, their intention is to go back to a certain period in American history, right? If say that you want to do something again, implies that it was once great. And we've established that he's not referring to any time within the 2000s or the 90s or the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Which time frame is he trying to go back to? And I think that some of the stuff that he's doing now is a very, very clear indication of which great America it is that they're in a hurry to get back to.
Mm-hmm.
So scary times for sure. I also go ahead.
I was gonna say I knew that I could smell something coming. I don't know if you remember, it was some years ago. There was a female baker, and she did not want to bake the cake for a gay couple. And I guess it was delivering actually the cake, because normally you go to the baking service and say, hey, I want this type of cake, and they deliver this big tier cake to your festivities. And she did not want to do that. But that was, of course, religious based. And it was tried, and she won, basically. You can't make somebody based off their religion go ahead and say, hey, I need to service you. But when that happened, I knew that this was something that's going to start eventually being challenged, because now I can say everything possibly could be religious based. Like, hey, it's not in my religion. I don't believe that women should serve a certain role. Women are subordinate to me, so they shouldn't hold these type of positions. So you can now then say that. Adding to that whole segregation thing, a couple of questions have been coming up in reference to interracial marriage and gay marriage. They asked the administration, and the administration clearly states that this should be possibly left up to the states. Wow. If it's left up to the states, what is the verdict? What is going to happen?
They're very different in Mississippi than they are in New York. You know what I mean? So interestingly enough, I can actually tie a lot of this to what's going on with immigration too.
Okay.
You guys know when you're trying like a new hair product, you guys ever like dye your hair here, and you know that they tell you on the box to test the spot on your skin to make sure that you're not having a reaction to it before you do your whole head. I feel like specifically Hispanic people, we're going to narrow it down if you want to, even to like Mexicans, but it's all Hispanic people at this point. They try that on them first, because if you don't put up too much of a fight about it when you do it to this group, they can move ahead and move it over to the next group, right? I feel the same way about some gay rights issues, but I think they try it more with Hispanic people. So if we just grab people up off the street and disappear them to another country, who's going to put up a fight about that? If it's the right group of people, your little test is going to pass. Your little skin spot test passes, and then now you can do it to the next group of people. So that's kind of how I feel about all of that. Like you mentioned, the lady that didn't want to bake the cake, the lady that worked in the DMV that didn't want to sign off the paperwork. You kind of had a lot of these little scratch and sniff tests. And again, you got like gay people, they do it on certain, with gay people, they kind of do a scratch and sniff, if you would. And then on the other hand, they do it a lot with Hispanic people. And if nobody fusses about it and they get away with it once, they can get away with it twice. And once they've established precedent, who's going to stop them?
Well, it's really interesting because we all know that Trump packed the courts with conservative judges, and the Supreme Court weighed in on interracial marriage a long time ago with the Virginia versus Love case, and of course now we have interracial marriage. Clarence Thomas, his wife is Caucasian, so it's kind of mind-boggling that somebody in his stature would even vote against something that he has going on. But at the end of the day, if you look at Project 2025, yes, Clarence Thomas is African American. Well, I'm just saying for visual purposes. For visual purposes, they are in an interracial relationship. But he would vote against his own, personal thing that he has going on. But once again, I hope you guys have been following Project 2025, and that is also on the chopping block. Just a little fun fact, the last state to allow interracial marriages was Alabama in the year 2000. Yes. So it was against the law in the year 2000 to be in an interracial relationship.
But tying back in that whole immigration piece, right? I don't know if you guys notice, there's so much in the news, you can't possibly catch all of it, right? But once upon a time, like if an American person married a not American person, that person can get their papers by way of the American person, like by way of the American. You're familiar, right? And this kind of started out as a thing with like the military, because they serve overseas and they fall in love with the ladies or the guys or whatever case, and bring them back and then make their, they have children that are American, therefore the spouse becomes American, and it's a whole system, right? not for nothing, it did become kind of commonplace. There are American people that meet illegal immigrants that fall in love and so on and so forth. So recently they've decided that they can deport the spouse of an American citizen and that they will not be protected the way that they've always been protected. And it was the courts actually that their specific ruling reads that you're allowed to marry who you want, but you have no right to live with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Again, tie that into the interracial and the gay and the everything else. If we've already enshrined and established this law that you can marry whoever you want, but now you have the court saying you can marry them, but you can't live with them, where is that going? And if you're talking about going back to, say, segregation and things like that, you do have a lot of interracial couples, but if you have a right to marry and not live with each other, particularly in the South, where it's a religious offense to marry outside of your tribe, where are we going with this?
Let's go to the comment real quick.
Right. So we got Sin Torres said the reason they're trying to use that on those of us going against these deportations is that we want criminals here, when in truth it's about due process, not the criminality of an individual. Correct. No one's in favor of criminals.
Interesting. It's interesting because they're grabbing people up, American citizens. They're grabbing American citizens up and then asking later, "Let me see your papers." And at the end of the day, I keep saying it, and this is just the beginning. But I do want to talk about in reference to what's actually happening that is affecting everybody, especially if you are a history buff and love history like I do. So if you didn't know, Jackie Robinson's profile and other Medgar Evers and other heroes and veterans have been taking down their information from the DOD website. All the different things and accolades that they have achieved, it was taken down. They have added them back as of now, current day. They're stating, the administration, basically, that it was the algorithm. The algorithm ended up looking for DEI, and they found them and took it down. They were looking for DEI and anything that had to do with affirmative action. And then, of course, now you have it. My question is, why the fuck is this algorithm machine going specifically for these individuals, specifically for women, specifically at the Arlington gravesite where you have buried soldiers and their information is getting eliminated specifically off of that. I mean, at the end of the day, my listeners, our listeners on the show, they're educated enough to go online and see different things and they know about Jackie Robinson, et cetera, et cetera. But the youth don't know anything about Arlington grave sites and who was this and this and this, and they don't seem to care, but the knowledge is not there. So what are we doing as a community to save that information if they're literally stripping it? Just in case you guys didn't know that, more and more states are picking up this law in Florida. So when it comes to African American studies, they should be teaching that it was beneficial for slavery to come into play because we were benefiting for education and tools, in reference to our skills
you otherwise wouldn't have had. Thank goodness for slavery.
So with that being said, this new wave of education is also picking up. So my question to the audience is, if you have children, if you have nieces and nephews, if you have grandkids or whatever that looks like, what are you doing to combat that? Especially when they're teaching in the school that it was beneficial for slavery, because that's how we picked up different skill sets and trades, So I'm really curious to see what you guys are doing right now. What do you think is next, Liz, in reference to off the chopping block, in reference to our civil liberties?
Well, I'm glad that you asked the question that you just asked in terms of, if they're teaching our kids this in school, how are we combating that, right? I know you guys have heard me whining and complaining about it because I've been adamant that they are banning books, which is so crazy, at this day and age that we're banning. And I mean, Ruby Bridges is banned. And you go into a public school in Florida and find it on a bookshelf. I dare you. All right. So I know one thing that I'm doing in my house is I am buying the books that they're banning. It's not expensive. It's a small thing that we can do to just kind of ensure that those books exist someplace. They're banning them so far. It's pretty much limited to public schools and then a few public libraries. But the books are still available for purchase in your places, in your Barnes and Nobles, on your Amazon, and in your Books A Million. There's thrift books, you guys. There's nothing wrong with used books at all, right? And so get the books, right? First of all, especially books that are written by the historians that we have now, minority people that are writing their biographies and doing the research and doing the history, we should be supporting them anyway. But we most certainly want to support them before their books are null and void. You know what I mean? So I think that that's a big one that each of us, as a small thing that we can do, is buy the books. Pick them up. They don't take up a lot of space in your house. Read them with your kids. Make it a tradition. I don't know. Instead of Elf on a Shelf, let's read a book. You know what I mean? Meaningful. But I think it sounds small until you go out one day and you cannot get these books anymore.
Exactly. I'm so glad, and I second that. I challenge everybody out there who are around younger individuals to share those stories, get those books, book drives, book sales, all types of things, and actually go out to the museums, go out and support, because of course some of these things are not going to get federal funding anymore. Some of these institutions out there that talk about our history, and I'm not just talking about African American, I'm talking about Asian and Latino and all the different, minority groups, they're not going to be federally funded. So we definitely need to support those and have the participation, so forth and so on. This comment here, I was waiting for somebody to say that.
You said it before we even had the show today, Kia. I've got to give you credit. You looked right into your crystal ball and saw it coming, right? So we got a comment from Humble Lion. He said, racism is at an all-time high. Segregation sounds good to me. Why should we go where we're not wanted?
Yes, I was glad somebody mentioned it. It didn't matter who it was, because that was one of my questions I was going to ask. How are we feeling? Are we happy that people are even talking about segregation? The reason why I say that is because I would be happy to know that the ABC restaurant does not want my business. I do not like people who wear their hair curly and they look like this and they're women or they're this and they're this. I want to know. I honestly want to know who the racists are. I want you to say it loud and clear. I want you to wear a shirt. I want to know. I want my children to know. I do not want to go into an institution, which happens all the time, and you're thinking that they love your money, they love you, and they're spitting in your food behind your back, or they're doing whatever toxicity that they could do to you just to get that dollar bill from you. So in reference to, hey, I don't want your service, I would appreciate to know who my enemy is. Because of course, I'm originally from New York, for those who don't know, it was a lot of segregation in New York. A lot of people don't think it is, but it's very segregated. And you have, your Italians here, your Irish here, you're this here, you're this here, but you knew what block, but you knew which block you couldn't go to. One thing about the South, yes, there are those sundown towns. There are some that are 100% like, hey, I'm in the backwoods somewhere. But there are a lot of towns that are integrated, and you don't know if your neighbor hates you, and hates your guts and this and this. You think everything is okay. You go running, taking a jog, and then you get shot or some bullshit like that. So I would want to know. I want to know who does not like me.
I understand the rationale there, right? And this might be a little controversial, even with the lady that didn't want to bake the cake for the gay people. I could believe it or not, I can see both sides of that, right? If she doesn't want to, then don't give her your money, which I guess goes to what Humble Lion was just saying, right? Is why go where you're not wanted? There's plenty of people that would be more than happy to bake that cake for you. I think if it's a personal business, like if it's I own this business, and I don't want to serve whoever I don't want to serve, I'm okay with you hanging up a sign saying you're not welcome here. And yes, I will happily take my dollars elsewhere. What I will say about this whole welcoming segregation, be very careful what you wish for, right? Because what you don't want is to be bleeding out and you need to get to a hospital and you're dying. Your kid is in the back seat dying and you pull up to a hospital and they're like, nope, whites only. That's when all of a sudden that whole, I welcome segregation is going to bite us in the ass.
Well, I'll stop you right there. 110% of brown women die in the hospital while giving childbirth because of the fact we are not treated the same way. Now, that's just for childbirth. When you look at the statistics for just brown people, and like I said, this could be anybody with the brown skin, we are treated statistically different when it comes to hospitalization. Why? Because we're stronger, we're tougher. Oh, you just want those drugs. Nothing's really wrong with you. You're like, oh my God, I really have these pain. You'll be okay. Stop fussing. So even though I do understand what you're saying, hey, something happens to your baby, you go straight to that emergency room and they're like, oh, sorry, not you today. At the end of the day, we are in a situation where we may not get the service that we need anyway. A lot of people die in the hospital just because
being treated
racism.
fairly and not being treated at all are two different things.
Well, at the end of the day, and I'm gonna get back to that. There's some comments. I'm gonna get back to that.
Okay. So, Candace said definitely a great idea, Liz, especially the way things are going. It'll only get harder to get those books. So
exactly.
Humble Lion said that this segregation will not look like it did. This is not the generation nor the economy to mess with.
You know what? I love that statement. I love that statement because just to break down some statistics, what segregation looks like at this moment. If it was to happen right now, the Civil Rights Act is completely abolished. $1.3 trillion was spent out of our community last year. 1.3 trillion. That's what was spent. That's $600 billion more than Spain. The difference between us and Spain is Spain has their own territories, lands, hospitals, doctors, They go on and on and on. They have everything. But we literally spent more than what that whole area did. $600 billion more. Now, granted, we spend money, not necessarily on productive things, but we are the number 8 contributor in reference to our money flow. We know how to put that money out. Now, if we can, I don't want to sound like controversial, but what I may say may ruffle some feathers.
Ruffle those feathers, Kia. Go ahead.
Okay, so listen here. I do not like what's happening because I know a lot of people are suffering, and this has nothing to do with brown people, even white people, just people in general are suffering. I don't like to see people go through changes, and I wish there was harmony. But I think this administration is going to push you off your fucking ass. So when I made that statement and said, hey, we spend money, but it's not directed to anything, I think we're going to be forced to now direct that money. The reason why I say this is because we're on month 3, 4 of the administration. This is not the 3rd year. This is not the 4th year. In 2 years, that Section 8 voucher that gets passed down by generations. I have Section 8. I pass it down to my grandma's kids and all this other stuff. They're stopping all that. What happens when those vouchers stop? What happens when you can't rely on the system anymore? We have to direct our dollar bills elsewhere. And where's that going to go? So in a way, this system that's actually happening is forcing us to think differently. And even if we're not doing it now, we're like, oh, it's all good. When that Section 8 voucher happens, and this is just her housing alone, it's going to make people panic. It's going to make people either panic and be resourceful. It's going to make people start saving, especially if they get the letter in the mail. If you got a letter, if you're in Section 8 right now, you got a letter in the mail that says, hey, on March the 23rd, 2026, you will no longer be able to receive a Section 8 voucher. We're going to dismantle this whole property and we're building condos. What are you going to do? All those dollar bills that you're putting out. I'm sorry, the comments are coming out. Stop.
No, like I said, there would be a lot of homeless people.
There would be, but there are going to be, everything you're saying is true, but there are going to be people that say, hey, you gave me that notice. I got to now direct those dollar bills elsewhere. If we're able, you just said right now, to take those books that are missing from the school system and let's educate our youth. Let's do the right things. Let's now collectively come together and do some financial literacy. That I said we just spent $1.3 trillion out of 45 million people in the United States. This is what we spent. If someone said, hey, this is an emergency that's happening to our community, I'm hoping and praying that we would now direct our funds a little bit differently, I suppose.
I completely get what you're saying. I'm just saying once again that we should really be careful what we wish for, and then we should also broaden out.
I'm not wishing it. It's going to happen. I'm not wishing it's going to happen. They said Section 8 is finito.
I mean,
that's what they said.
Finito, right? You got the Social Security, which affects every age group, not just the old. There's a lot of things that are being affected, right? But I feel like if we broaden our scope, right? I know that Humble Lion mentioned that this is not the economy to mess with. If you pay attention to the headlines, I don't think they give a rat's ass about the economy right now. The way that we're picking fights with our neighbors on our border, and we're pulling out of the EU, and we're playing wild and fast and loose with the stock market, I don't really think that they care about the economy.
But,
I mean,
but here,
it sounds fine that we spend trillions of dollars, but they right now they don't care. There's something bigger going on. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I couldn't tell you what. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a psychic, so I can't tell you what it is, right? But there is a reason that they are being just this reckless. And if you think that it's your $1 trillion or your $2 or your $10 trillion that's going to stop them, they're moving towards something that looks more like when China was walled off from the world, and they were.
Everything that you're saying. Everything that you're saying is accurate. Something bigger is brewing. You should have smelled it a long time ago. How did he get in? All those things that you're saying. What I'm saying right now, when you get a news alert that says, "Hey, Florida, Hurricane so and so is coming," what do? There's some people who wait to the day of, right before they shut the whole roads down, and say, "Hey, did you get your supply?" Oh, damn! Can somebody call Leroy and get more supplies? But then there's some people who already, "Hey, I'm calling you on the phone. Did you get your prepping gear? Did you have did you do what you needed to do?" So once again, I understand there are some people who, no matter what happens, we cannot help them. Right. But collectively, I'm praying that now that we see all this shit is going on, see, at the end of the day, Asians, Latinos, Black and brown people, all these communities, some white people, once you realize we have the same oppressor, then we collectively work together, we can do all types of shit. So even though we know there's a common enemy and this is something brewing in the air, what are we going to do about it? Do we just sit on our asses now? If we know that segregation 2.0, Jim Crow is coming 2.0, even more and more and more, what are we going to do about it now?
I mean, don't wait until the shit's happening. That would be cool. But the fact of the matter is, we do not typically come together ever, right? I mean, literally, there's going to be the people that have their heads screwed on tight. They're going to get out there and they're going to mobilize and do what they need to do. Those, by the way, are the people that are already doing that, right? Those are the people that literally came from the hood like you and I did and kind of figured some shit out. The people that were going to do it are already doing it. The people that were not going to do it, they literally fall into factions and start wearing red and blue and black and whatever it is. That's what extreme poverty and desperation looks like. It looks like people murdering each other on the street. It does not look like a kumbaya moment for Black folks. So
we have to, but this is when we get out. Let's get to the comments and we'll go back to that.
So Sin said that we are not the same people of yesterday. Keeping our ancestors dumb was their objective. Seems they're thinking segregation today will be MAGA. And so Toya said what he said. I think she was talking about Humble Lion's comment. And then so Sin said, I am grateful, obviously, for my family and the past that comes with it, but we are not our ancestors.
I want to add to that because sometimes people I've heard people say that was derogatory, and then I heard people say that I understood, and I understood both ways. So when somebody says that we're not our ancestors, meaning, hey, we're not going to just sit back and just, get beat on or whatever, I totally understand that. But I want to also add that we are our ancestors in the aspect that we are inventors, we are creators. We know how to, like when the recession hit, I always say the recession ain't fucking hit me. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to struggle. I don't give a fuck what I got going on. Yes, I curse on the show for anybody tuning in. I know what the fuck that I came from. I know where my family came from. The recession has never hit me. I know what it is. When it comes to struggle, I know how to make do. And at the end of the day, I do what the fuck I have to do to get by. And then when you get by, then you elevate and you learn and you pass on that knowledge. But at the end of the day, I will give props to my ancestors. But I will not take no shit from nobody neither.
No, I mean,
we're not our ancestors.
Going back to that comment from before that, right? Where keeping the ancestors dumb was the objective. If you could kind of show back
right here. Wait,
yes. So keeping the ancestors dumb was their objective, and what they learned from their ancestors is that it is profitable to try to keep the ancestors dumb, right? And so, which is exactly why they stopped teaching history, which is why they stopped teaching kids how to basically read and write damn near, right? Which is why they're taking away the books. So we might think that we're not our ancestors, because we learned from our ancestors and we were taught those things. They are intentionally restricting that history. Like literally, if universities teach certain things, they'll pull their funding. On a state level, they're pulling that funding. The big push behind getting rid of the Department of Education, a lot of it is rooted in racism. So literally what you said is 100% true, and that keeping them dumb, keeping them ignorant is the objective. And that is exactly what they're moving towards with our children. And we've talked about this on the show before. There's a reason for all the distractions. There's a reason for, all the phones and the YouTubes and the everything else that keeps our kids distracted and fucking dumb, if we're being honest with it, right? And yes, it's on a parent, it's our responsibility to educate our children and everything else, but it's hard.
But that's why I say, because out of everything that I've always been this person, out of everything negative, I think there's a positive story behind it. I always think there's a positive story behind everything negative. And I think the positivity that's coming out of this is that because you can even see it at the rallies with Bernie Sanders and AOC. She has the Democrats and the Republicans all there. And they're realizing, wait a second, we all in the same boat. We was getting lied to. We be getting lied to by the Democrats and the Republicans. Oh my God, we need a whole new revamp of everything. We need a revamp of everything. And that's what I'm talking about collectively. We can smell something brewing. We know something brewing. So now we have to go ahead and stop it before it ends up affecting a family member or other people. Now, granted, like I said, we can't save everybody, but as much as we can, we got to spread this fucking message.
Like I said, I think that there's just a level of, everybody wants to always blame it on the parents, right? And so parents, what are you doing to teach your kids in this and third? We're talking about people that are on Section 8, that rely on these benefits and everything else. These people today are trying to survive, let alone take those things away from them. They're still trying to survive. They're just trying to feed their kids food, let alone feeding them intellectually. I think that, yes, it will eventually correct itself. But do we have another 100 to 400 years to turn this around and to get it right? I mean, that's something to think about, right? So Alistair's comment said, that's crazy how we're willing to accept them eliminating benefits for the impoverished, but lining Elon and every other billionaire's pockets.
It's funny that you said that, Alistair, for the simple fact that they were talking about sometimes sending activating the SWAT team and police agencies to protect the Tesla dealerships, because of course people were messing with the cars and different things like that. Wow, can you imagine if you took those resources and you protected the school? How many fucking school shootings would have been eliminated? Then it had me thinking, wow, this country has always been about the dollar bill. It's never been people first. It's always been money first. Right. This whole industry, what we call America, is a fucking business. And you're either making money for this business that we call America, or you're not.
Right.
And how do you fit in on all this? So at the end of the day, I totally understand that it's fucking unreal.
So Humble Lion said, our people need the wake-up call of all wake-up calls, so we can be a great nation of people and not just individual gatekeepers.
I think and I pray that this situation that is unfolding and beginning to unfold more and more will push people to do what the fuck they have to do. And I'm not talking about, Mary who's sitting in an apartment and she got asthma and she got the oxygen tank and people that can't get around. I'm talking about people who are willing, able bodies. One plan or one thing that I thought of. So right now, if you look at, and I'm all about statistics, right? Because we could sit here all day and be like, oh, and I feel this and you feel this. No, show me the fucking numbers. Let's see what the numbers are saying. Right. And statistically, people are not applying for jobs like they used to, right? A lot of new ways of getting money, content creators and making widgets on the side and, oh, girl, I do nails or whatever the case may be. With that being said, you look at the police agency. So now we're going to talk about integration. We got segregation, but let's talk about integration, because some people are like, you know what? I want my kids to grow up in a whole neighborhood of rainbow people and everybody's happy and rainbows and sunshine, which is great. To each his own. With that being said, though, when you look at the jobs, the job market, I talked about policing. The agency is saying a lot of people are not applying to become a police officer. The military is saying a lot of people are not signing up for the military. Teachers, a lot of people are not wanting to be teachers. And we understand the pay may not be the best, because guess what? I can make $1,000 a week posting content and doing, eating pranks and doing these funny things on this. I want the real money. But you think about it, when it comes to community, we need a solid foundation. Let's flood the policing agency. Let's have more and more people that look like us as police officers, as teachers, as all the things that we don't want to do. The nursing industry. A lot of the people in the nursing industry are retiring. The baby boomers have retired already, or they're in the process of retiring. Current day, statistically, the Caribbean population has monopolized that industry. Guess what? When they get out of school, now you have a whole bunch of people from the islands who are going to be your nurse. When you're sick, there's going to be somebody who looks like them, who sounds like them, and they are deciding that this is what we're going to get into. Let us do the same thing. Why can't we apply for these different jobs and paralegals and this? Let's flood this, because I know they're like, oh, we don't want to take those applications. They're not going to turn all of us down. So these are certain ways that we can just kind of flood to get the shit popping. As a suggestion.
But again, even with the police department, I love that idea. Couldn't agree with you anymore if I tried. But if we're moving towards, being pro-segregation, we're also moving towards all-white police forces. And they would rather have 10 of them than 100 of us any day. And if they can make that legal, they will.
But that's why you don't wait until laws are passed. You do the shit now. So right now, if you have right now you have recruiters currently saying that I don't have enough, people applying. I don't have enough people applying. There is no law at this moment saying, hey, if you hire 25 extra police officers or whatever that are brown skinned, we're not going to give you funding.
No, but they're hiring them, and then the federal government is laying everybody off and paving the way for states to lay everybody off. And if the federal government can do it, the states can do it. If the states can do it
before. I guess what I'm trying to say, do it before it's actually happening.
But they're laying them off anyway. Look at what's happening on the federal level. Anybody that's within their first 90 days or within their first 180 days they're losing their jobs. I mean, so they applied 60 days ago. Too bad, you can go home now. What do we do about this? This is crazy.
Well, I'll say this. Take teachers, and I can't talk about everyone's state, but I do know for the state of Florida, there is a teacher shortage. I think that's everywhere, actually. And they're trying to dismantle unions. We do know that. With that being said, let's just say a teacher makes $45,000 a year. That's not going to really pay for anything. So we understand that people are not wanting to go into that field because the kids are bad. You got school shootings, plus it's not really paying too much or whatever the case may be. But in the same breath, we're also telling the parents, we're telling the community, we need to teach our kids because they're not teaching our kids. That is another reason why you have some Black conservatives say, you know what, I'm glad that they're disbanding the Board of Education because our kids wasn't learning shit to begin with. So how do we combat that? I feel that we combat that by people with smart minds saying, you know what, let's get a part-time teaching job. Let's go. I mean, especially if we're wanting to teach the children anyway, might as well get on the payroll system and do something that we can. You have a lot of people in their households that have 2 or 3, 4 different jobs. Everybody's working. Why are we not adding to that? I guess I'm trying to find different ways where we can start building up our community. In other hands, instead of just being these, doing YouTube videos and pranksters and touching people and running and all other bullshit that they got on.
Weird stuff that's going on. And I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit tonight. I'm not, by no means do I mean to have a defeatist attitude or anything. I'm just saying it feels like we're always running behind the ball rather than being ahead of it or on top of it. So, it would be nice if we could apply for those jobs and get them if they meant something anymore. Once upon a time, the dream was to get a federal job because of the benefits and longevity and the retirement and everything else. Now, it's probably the scariest place to work is the federal government. That's just crazy. You know what I mean? Candace said that trigger warning with Killer Mike attempting to patronize Black-owned businesses gave a lot of insight into our current situation back in 2019.
Very true.
Very true. So Sin said, exactly, we will do what we have to. so we see what go ahead and get it in there. Get it in, girl. Keep running. So Cash said criminals tend to try to avoid talking about their crimes. So I think we were talking about the billionaires and lining their pockets. So Alice said, but isn't that what we're doing now? We're working everywhere. We are integrated.
Well, I would say that we are not as integrated as we should be. Meaning that we need more teachers that look like us, more police officers that look like us, more firemen. There are demographics that monopolize industries, and we're nowhere to be found. And at the end of the day, let's just say 100 people. Let's just take the fire station.
Mhm.
Yes, DEI is gone, and we got to revamp and revamp. But if 100 brown people apply to be a firefighter or whatever that training mechanism look like, I promise you someone's going to get hired because no one's filling those spots. If enough white people got their ass burnt, I promise you they're going to be up in them streets. Hire some people, please. When LA was caught on fire, do you think those rich people cared who was taking out the fire? They brought people from Canada and Mexico over, the same immigrants they trying to get rid of. They brought them right back over to say, please help us. They pulled people from the prisons. Please help us. So when it's affecting them, yes. But what I'm trying to say is they literally have demographics that monopolize certain industries. Why are we not doing that? I think this administration will force us to be creative, to put that $1.3 trillion that we spent last year into some good use. I really do think that's going to happen.
So I also said no one is interested in joining the military anymore. People don't even meet the physical and academic requirements.
They lowered the standards, actually, so a lot of people.
They lowered it, and it's still not lowered enough. Most people still can't make. Most young people cannot make. First of all, you wouldn't even want them trying to run behind enemies trying to chase them. But and from somebody that has always been, I've always been very appreciative of anybody that made that sacrifice and served the country and everything else. But these days, and I always thought that if I ever had a son, I did not. I have all girls thinking this, but if I ever had a son, or if any of my daughters ever wanted to enlist, I would have been so for it. Now I can't say that I would encourage that. What are we going to send our kids to go fight in Mexico and Canada? Or round people up because once you're given an order, you have to do what you're told in effect, right? Otherwise, you'll be in an El Salvadorian prison with the rest of them. So when they start sending them into our communities to round our people up, to send them to Venezuela and El Salvador and wherever it is that they want to send them, I don't think that I want my kids involved in that shit or having to deal with that on their conscience.
Well, I can say this, being a veteran, I can say this. I would suggest anybody who's ever thought about it, still thinking about it, know somebody who may go in, to talk to somebody who has that experience, because within that there are certain jobs and certain roles that you would say that anybody necessarily could work. It's not necessarily combat related. I know a lot of certain jobs have stigma. I met teachers. The teachers that I deal with in the neighborhood, they ain't never seen a school fight, school shooting, or anything. Thank God, and they're happy and they love their jobs or whatever. Of course, we're talking, you have those one-off situations that seem like they're every situation, and you hear terrible things. How many people in the audience want to be a school teacher? As much as we could sit down and we could talk to the kids and say, read this book or whatever, I don't know too many people raise their hands to deal with children in that aspect. Police officers and and we're not even talking about, the police brutality and the code blue and all these other things. We're just talking about the things that police officers go through, because a lot of people, they put their life on the line, whatever. What I'm trying to say, and I gave the example about the hospitals, because we have an influx of people who left the industry during COVID, early retirements and these things, a lot of the Caribbean demographic harmed in. They went in, and the majority of them are the ones who will be servicing you when you get older. So I'm just thinking, what can we do? A lot of times they say, well, we gave the jobs, the immigrant the jobs, because when we try to offer it to the African Americans, they didn't want to take the job.
Right.
The wages were too low. So I think that we have to challenge the system. Something has to happen, and it has to happen immediately, because at the end of the day, we already know who's going to get the short end of the stick.
So he said, so he was, I'm sorry, I think he was following up on the fact that these kids can't make the academic requirements, and then they're trying to close the Department of Education. So that's not going to help. And so Humble Lion said the bedroom should not be the only place that white people show their love for black people. Show it systematically. I kind of love that, Humble Lion. I kind of get with that. How will segregation work for the biracial?
I think that the 10%, well, the one drop rule? The one drop rule
Yes.
will apply, and biracial children will be standing in line with all the other brown people that's in front of them, because the one drop rule is very, very important for a lot of people who follow the Project 2025 uh, manifesto. You
Hmm.
know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, you have a group of people who have planned years in advance to take over this whole administration, and winning again, and this isn't just happen out of the blue. This wasn't a fluke. All this shit was planned. They sat there, and this is what we got to do, and we got to get the numbers out, and we're gonna pack. You think packing the courts? Do you honestly think packing the courts was something that he just did just because? Well,
Just because it was cute that day. Yeah.
no, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He knew exactly how he's going to get it done. You got
Mhm.
to plan strategically. When you are at war, you have to plan. You do not sit up and wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh, this is what I want to do." When
Right.
the enemy is sleeping, that's when you putting up your drawer, your blueprints, and this and this and this. And while we over here wondering what the next TikTok move is, and we doing a little dance, types of bullshit going on. At the end of the day, I am telling you, if you think it's bad now, you haven't seen shit yet.
Period. So,
Oh, what? Oh, we missed one. Let me see. This one. Yeah, sorry.
all right. So Elsa said, but we did join the military in World War II, and they went to fight for this country, and then now they're being erased from platforms. First of all, they went to fight. When they got back, they were treated like shit. Had
Yeah.
to fight with the rest of everybody in order to get rights. And now that we've had them, we got so comfortable having them, didn't think anything of it. They're literally erasing the history. And so again, from somebody that um fun fact, I was previously married to a Marine. I have a lot of friends that are Marines that have deployed. I know a lot of veterans. I cannot tell you how much, again, I appreciate the service and the sacrifices that they make and everything else. I absolutely love our men and women in uniform of all ilks. But what I'm saying is, and Sin said the next comment too, not with the current racists in charge of the Pentagon and the military. Nope.
Well,
I'm here.
here's the thing. Here is the thing. And you know I love the statistics. I love me a statistic. Now,
Mhm.
here's the thing about this. So you sit back and you say, I would never join the military. I would never tell my cousin to join the military. I would never. After this administration, hell no. Well, if you sit back and you think about it, statistically, and this is just in reference to certain branches, the Army statistically ends up enlisting poor children first. You know
Oh,
why? Because they have no education benefits, they have no health care, they got this and this and this going on. With
mhm.
that being said, sign up. You'll get the hot cot and the meal and all this extra stuff. Okay, yeah, sign me up. But then you think about the administration. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not doing that. I'd rather go volunteer than to be forced, because we already know dipshit's in charge, and he's gonna be saying and talking and do all this stuff. I smell some things going on in this administration. I would hate to have a child be forced to join the military and not get certain benefits because they ended up activating the draft. Because once you activate the draft, which is possible because people are not signing up the way they used to, they then can have all types of other things within the DoD saying what you can be entitled to and what you cannot be entitled to.
They're a
So
little too to enact the draft, actually, to be honest with you.
I'm just saying it is possible. I honestly would hate it to know that, damn, this person got drafted into the military and they're not able to get the benefits that we served and got, when I was in the military, so forth and so on. I would hate to see that.
It's
I say get them while you can.
I mean, but they're doing what they can to eliminate those benefits. They're laying off everybody. And everybody who does anything, the janitors at the VA are in trouble. Like there is no VA. So those benefits that people have counted on, that they believe are going to be there, just like Social Security benefits, they believed they were going to be there, and everything else, things that you signed up for or didn't sign up for. None of us voluntarily gave our money to Social Security. They took it, but we didn't fight too hard because we expected to tap into it. People signed up for the military based on the benefits they thought they were going to get, and now they're dismantling those agencies or trying to privatize them or make it harder or impossible for you to get them. There's a lot going on. So we got to come up with something smarter than that, right? Now,
and I'm not disagreeing with you. You know, it's a shame. The military that I served in is not the military, that I serve, that is now, you know, and especially if you have an administration that doesn't have your back, right? Because a lot of times when people go into war and serve and this, that, and the third, it's kind of like, you know, you either don't know what's really going on because you're young, or you do know what's going on, but you're kind of like, okay, I'm doing this, you know, and to know that when you get out and you get exposed and you get hurt and you have mental health issues and all types of stuff, those benefits are not there. I totally do understand, and I see both viewpoints. I just feel that there has to be an industry. There has to be a game plan. Because once again, think about it, guys in the audience. Who do you know that may have a Section 8 voucher or has used a Section 8 voucher? In the next 2 years, there will be no Section 8 vouchers. What the fuck are we going to do with all the homeless? Well, guess what? Because there are going to be some people, hey, cousin so-and-so, stay with me. All right, let's eliminate those.
Rounding people up and
yes, that's
out
it.
of the country. Like, remember,
they're rounding people up. They got jails. They got all types of stuff. So at the end of the day, there are jails that are sitting empty, waiting. We have to come up with a game plan.
The stock that went up the day that he won the election, the first set of stocks that went through the roof and haven't come back down, the prison industrial complex. All those stocks, those private jails, they went through the roof. There's a reason for it. Again, not being a conspiracy theorist, I'm saying that there's a reason for all of it. They've already been scouting out these jails that have been closed. They're now revamping them. They've re-outfitted Gitmo of all places.
So before you read
countries, no.
Before you read the next comment, here's something that's really interesting that had me kind of like, had me looking. It might have you looking too, Liz. So it's interesting because, you know, a lot of things are happening all at once in this climate. And I've been seeing that his administration has been talking about people who are talking about these type of topics, making them the enemy of the state, making them a target. And that's scary because now you're telling me that I can't speak. And never have I ever said, hey, take to the streets and blow some shit up. Never have I ever said anything like that.
Nope.
I do the podcast. We do the podcast because we have simple conversations over the phone. And I said, well, it'd be nice to hear what other people's opinion. That was the only reason why the show ever started. I want to know what other people thought because we'd be on the phone for hours just chatting. And girl, did you hear what this person did? And
Exactly.
But to know that there are people, and this is what they're trying to censor the things that we're talking about. So if we know, once again, hint, hint, if we know what's about to come down the pipeline, what the fuck are we going to do about it? Can you go ahead and comments real quick?
So Cash said, it's too many of our people saying what they don't want to do. We have millions of kids trying to fit into maybe a few hundred spots. But, okay, devil's advocate, are the kids actually even trying to fit into those spots?
Good question.
I'm just saying, if you ask, I'm throwing the challenge out there to you guys as a little homework for the week. If you know any kids that are, when I say kids, young adults, right? Say between 22 and 30. And you ask them what their plan is, or you know what kind of job they're looking for, or
I'm sorry to laugh. I'm sorry to laugh. Go ahead.
I'm saying 22 to about literally 35, because that's what kids are kind of these days. And for my young folks out there, if you're watching this show, please don't take offense to this, but like get serious, right? What jobs are they talking about getting? What serious businesses are they talking about starting or owning or anything? They are not. For the record, they're also, I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. They're not talking about getting married. They're not talking about having kids. They want no part of any type of responsibility or real life adulting.
That should be a whole other fucking show.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna abandon that. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it alone. All I'm saying is
I have to jump on this bandwagon. Any young adult from the age of, I'm gonna say, so I'll say 21. I'll say 21 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I want to say 35. I know some 35-year-olds, but I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm not going. Wait. I'm about to be unfiltered, y'all. Wait. So I'm sorry. I had to put some gum in, and that's a whole other fucking story. Woo, Jesus. Okay, so anybody that's 21 to 30, give or take.
Okay,
I will say that their mindsets are not where they should be. And I'm not saying that they don't have good jobs. I'm not saying that they are not working. Let's just say they were working at a restaurant, and they were a supervisor at a restaurant. Let's just say that they're pretty good. They're always on time and they're doing what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen any of them have a 5 to 10 year goal plan set.
Mm-mm.
None of those individuals that I ran into, and they don't have to necessarily be in my little circle of people that I know, this is just in passing, none of them even concern themselves with any of this. I would say that people that are 36, give or take, and older do.
Mm-hmm.
They may see that some shit is going down, like, oh, that ain't right. I don't think that was nice of him to say that, but I haven't honestly seen. Now, there are exceptions to the rules. So any young person listening, I definitely understand that. But I just want to go ahead and say that's a funny one.
That goes back to what Sin was saying earlier in the comments, right? Where she was talking about we are not our ancestors. Yeah, but our kids aren't either. You know what I mean? And so we have much thicker skins. We do not have that the ancestors had. We couldn't have made it a day in the field, right? These kids can't make it a day in an 8 to 10 hour shift. So we should be real like.
No, these kids are always complaining about what they don't want to do. I've been like, what in the world? Go ahead.
And they're not gonna get paid no little bit for not having any experience or education in life either. But okay, I'm done. All right, Sin.
C for time out. Remember that one?
Heritage Foundation was founded in 1973. These plans have been in the works since then.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. And so she said that I am retired from the military. Kia knows. I have 2 daughters. Hell no, not with this administration. She said my baby's got bone spurs.
That part.
I am here for it. So, and you and I are both in the same boat. We both have girls or young ladies on the precipice of greatness, right? What I will say is Hegseth, or whatever his name is, that's over the DOD at this point. He doesn't even think the military has any place for women. So I'm with him. You know what? You go ahead and you hold on to that belief, baby. It's all good. He don't even want my daughter, so we are A-okay on this one. It's annoying, it's aggravating, but Kia, we were talking about it. They're too dumb to even enact the draft. They don't want women. They don't want gay people. They don't want fat people. They don't want ugly people. They don't want mixed people. They don't want who they going to draft? Donald Trump ain't sending his sons. Just saying, right? So Cash said, if someone has other options, go for it. But I would roll the dice again with the military, even right now. Staying in the hood doing nothing would still be more dangerous.
I would say this: if I had to do it all over again, it all depends on what I was doing in the military, because that's the thing. So for me, when I joined the military, of course, when you're young, you don't know, and you have this experience, and you find out different administration, different time. But I served during, the Bush administration, during 9/11 and all that stuff. But I can say that now that I do know stuff, I would strategically choose certain branches over the other. I would choose specific jobs that I knew that may be out of the limelight So it just all depends. I mean, but I do understand living in the hood is very dangerous. So I mean, you roll the dice and you take a chance. So I do understand that point.
And so Elsa said, I'm just saying this in response to the point that we need to be in these jobs. I respect teachers, service members, police officers, but there's a double standard and it doesn't benefit us.
So what would you suggest that we do? What would you suggest collectively? So right now we have Asian communities that funnel their monies within the community, right? We have Spanish Latino communities, and they funnel, like Miami and Cubans and these things, they funnel that money. We have Caribbean, they funnel the money. How do we educate those who do not funnel the money within their community to do so? Because we can smell what's happening. A lot of our family members, a lot of friends, associates, and people are going to end up in some hard times because of this administration. How do we help them? How do we give them advice? How do we collectively go this way? I want to let you know real quick about, and I know the audience probably knows about Black Wall Street. And Black Wall Street was a place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they were thriving. America bombed their own city just so that they say, hey, I'm gonna prove a point to you. But as of today, there are individual communities that are just so thriving, just as they're in Houston, they're in Arkansas, Maryland, they're in Georgia, and these are communities that are thriving, bustling. You can Google it. I would encourage people to go ahead and buy within those communities, make your dollar count, support each other, because at the end of the day, no one else is supporting you.
Atlanta's a big one, a big hub or whatever, right? And I'll take it a step further, Kia, in that unlike Black Wall Street, which at the time was an actual street that had to exist with businesses on it and so on and so forth, the way that the world is set up now, the way that our country is set up now, they would not be able to bomb us if we were strategic about it, right? Because so much is online. Were they going to blow up the internet? Wait, let me not give them any ideas. Just saying it, right? But if we start thinking out of the box a little bit, we don't need an actual street with a banner on it that's a target, an easy target for them to lay, right? I think that a lot of the organizing that we should be doing we should go back to way old school word of mouth. I think we should get off the internet with some of our planning and everything else. I think that if we're going to boycott a company, that it should happen like button, who's got the button, and pass it around and let them feel it before they see it. Let them not see us coming, right? So I think that those are the different ways that we can approach this. I think that, again, stocking up on those books that they're trying to get rid of, that's that quiet opposite of protest, if you would, supporting people that are trying to do positive things and just being loud and proud about it without being loud and proud about it, if that makes sense. Those are things that we can do, right? I love your idea, by the way, of flooding the industries, the police officers, the fire departments, the teachers. I absolutely love that. Another one that we haven't talked about at all is the technical, the hands-on trades, right? Your plumbers, your roofers, your carpenters. Society would fail without welders, right? And construction workers and things like that, right?
But we have to show the youth. We have to show, because what that we know, we're educated. We know the value. We have to show that to the young people. They have to see the value within it. When you don't see the value in certain things, you're just like, yeah, that's that's nice. Yeah, okay, let me go turn her off right now. The show's over. Let me go back to what I was doing. I don't see the value in it. They'll see the value in it when they don't have
the value in it. So, for example, a plumber, just as an example, just to get them to show up at your house, it's like a $300 payment for them to, you have to pay them for them to show up, right? I don't know the last time, I'm not knocking teachers. We just said we love the teachers, right? But it's so funny because a teacher will make that in a day, right? That a plumber makes just by showing up at your house. You know what I mean? I think that if you show a young person, learn a trade that's viable, right? Learn a trade that makes you rare, right? So for example, mechanics, no knock on mechanics if you guys are out there, but at this point, auto mechanics are like a dime a dozen. Be an airplane mechanic. You know what I mean? Do something that kind of sets you up and apart, because no matter how much they want to segregate you, they do want to get on a working plane. Right? They will pay you for that skill or they will die. And at the end of the day, what they're not going to do is harm themselves. So figure out what those things are that are not replaceable with AI, not replaceable with a bot, not, you know what I mean? Not something that can be easily segregated out of existence. Those are the trades, those are the skills that we need to overdo it. I bet you when those hurricanes come through, they don't care which roofer comes. They want somebody to come. You know what I mean? So I feel like those are some of the things that we can show these kids that bring the dollars in. They want a quick buck. Okay, these are, most technical programs are a couple months long. Train them, get them paid, get them in the field where they're valuable and they're learning valuable skills. And we can reshape this thing, right? But we've got to stop thinking. I know that Cash was putting in a correction that when he meant those couple hundred spots, he was talking about athletes and entertainers. There are things besides that. And first of all, everybody is not going to be an athlete. Everybody's not going to be an entertainer, which is why he said there's a couple hundred spots for millions of kids looking to fill it. That has always been the case, right? But we've got to get more strategic and more realistic about things. You do not have to go to the military in order to gain a valuable skill. And with these people doing things that are against our community, we should not be participating on any level until they come to us.
I challenge the audience. And of course, you guys are wonderful already, but pick up a new trade, pick up a new skill. If that's gardening, if that's sewing, if that's teaching somebody that you know, a new language, all that. Pick up a new skill because they definitely will be valuable, especially for what's coming down the pipeline. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so I also said that's exactly my point. They've done that here in Central Florida. It doesn't matter what we do. So let's see. Sin said, I suggest that we start thinking about running for political offices and start filling those red seats.
I'm going to stop you real quick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Stop you real quick. For time out.
Mm-hmm.
If you choose to go the political route and say, hey, I need to stand on this podium and I'm going to do my gavel and the whole nine like that, make sure that your background is squeaky clean.
Why?
The way these RICO cases is coming through, if you did something in 1994, you can be like, wait a second, you charging me for what?
Oh, no, Kia, I'm going to so disagree with you so hard. Those are the rules of yesterday. Maybe 20 years ago, you couldn't get a blowjob and that made it into the news or whatever the case is. But these days, do you see who's in office?
I'm talking,
they're over the DOD. You've got
no. They're doing it against. No. So Miss Pamela, the one who is our attorney general, she is going for people who are against the administration. So no, I understand there's a felon that's in the office and the whole nine like that, and they can do it. But I'm just saying the opposing, they're trying to find every little thing that they can to say, hey, what about this and get this. Actually, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but the one of the attorney generals, I had the name written down. I don't know if you could look at it real quick before we wrap everything up. She just passed away in her apartment. She was under the Biden administration.
I saw that. I did see that.
Yes, I mean
30-something, 39.
Yes, she was. I'm like, now what's really going on? But at the end of the day, and I'm not even talking, that is still a good idea for those people who do want to be out there in the spotlight. Sometimes you have to, I guess, get that good trouble thing going in, like they talk about. But no, I totally do agree. These are other things that we can do, being the political opponents.
Listen, if you have it in your heart to run for political office, I suggest that you get like Sin over there on that treadmill and run, baby, run. So Alistair said, if we run, then we're domestic terrorists, that too. Right. Then Sim said, a lot of these people are holding political seats, especially in these red states that don't even hold degrees. We got somebody in charge of the IRS that doesn't have no kind of degree. Nothing. He has a made-up certificate from some accounting something made up.
No. There's a lot of people who are not qualified and they are DEI hires. At the end of the day, strategically, when we teach our little kids about what a community is, we're sitting there talking about, here's a postman, here's a this, here's the gardener. From every aspect, from high to low, we need to start flooding these jobs and learning and educating. And I'm glad this next con is coming up. This
Yes.
is why I get online and I learn it
Oh, by the
myself.
way, Cheryl, that's a new person commenting in the comment section. I saw you earlier. You said good evening. So you said, this is why I
But
get
I
a lot.
love that statement. I love the statement that you just said. It's a great thing because I actually know somebody, and they listen
Mhm.
to the show sometimes. It's a great thing that they're self-taught graphic designer. They went to the library and taught themselves, and now they're doing phenomenal work, and they make a lucrative income. But they self-taught. If that's what it takes, let's go ahead and do it.
Tube University. So let's go. So let's see. Allison, we have new lows these days. Yeah, if you have a background, as long as it's not anything that's just I can't get behind that, right? Don't let that hold you back. And nothing's holding them back. Why do we keep limiting ourselves, right? And so she said, I don't care. We got molesters up in there. That
You
part.
know what? Like I said, if that is something that you say, hey, I can't hold it back. I support people 100 grand. If you're gonna go ahead and make a difference, I am for the people.
So Cash said Corey Bush's husband just got indicted yesterday. Now that I did not know. I kind of want to know.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
It's been some wild times, guys. Once again, I'll give you Liz with the last words.
Right, this feels heavy. All right, let's see. Where do I even go with this? So, obviously, guys, there's a lot of things at play. Do not find yourself on the wrong side of history, siding with these people on any of their bullshit, even for the smallest things. I know a lot of people out there are not, um, they don't care about immigrant rights, so they don't care about what's happening to women or trans people in the military, and they don't care about. There's a lot of things that we've decided that we don't care about. I'm going to tell you again. That's that test spot on your skin, right? With all the different products that you put on, they're seeing what they can get away with it. Protest all of it. Disagree with all of it. Make yourself be heard. Make your stance real clear. Nobody should question what side of the fence that you're on, right? I know, and earlier in the comments, somebody said that we are not our ancestors. Ironically, you guys can't see the bottom of it, but this says, you are a future ancestor. Advanced legacy. We are not our ancestors, but we are future ancestors, whether we like it or not. This day in history will be recorded. No matter how they try to hide it, make sure that you did something that you can feel good about, that your children will thank you for, and your grandchildren will thank you for. We cannot just be idle and do nothing. I'm not asking you to get on the news or burn anything down or anything crazy. Buy a damn book. All right. Let that be the moral from tonight. Figure out what books have been banned and get behind those causes. If it's a book that you think has value to your children, your grandchildren, birthday presents, Christmas presents, Easter presents, Mother's Day presents, make them all books and make them all banned books, and tell those people why you're giving them the books, and maybe they can spread the word too. I hope that you guys have an amazing week.
Yes, and there's a little last comment here.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. As I was transitioning out of the army, I taught myself embroidery, so it can be done. Now that's real cool, Trump.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey,
Oh.
girl. Well, it's crazy because anybody that served with me from back in the day,
Mhm.
my you go off your last name, when they address you. So my
Okay.
last name was Valentine,
Uh-huh.
and Valentine was wild. Valentine was a wild one back in the day. So I'm so glad we're not talking about old stories. But with that being said,
Not
I,
Kia.
I've gotten married. I've changed my last name, and I am not a wild one. I'm funny, but I'm not a wild one anymore. And I can tell you what are you? Well, oh yeah, you know me personally. So
Mm-mm.
but I can say this though. I'm a smart person, and what I did not do when I was younger was really appreciate and value the wisdom that
Mm.
people older than me were trying to instill in me. And not until I got older did I appreciate and listen to the things that they said and remember, oh, yeah, it's making sense. So I encourage all the youth to please listen to the adults that are older than you and take their advice and try to see it through their eyes. All this is a repeat of what the fuck happened in the past. History repeats itself over and over and over again. And like you say, you don't want to be on the wrong side of history. So let's go ahead. Let's get our community together. Let's get strong. Please make sure that you read that Project 2025 and their manifesto, because all their shit is right there. All their stuff is right there
Hard to
for
find.
you to understand, and like Michelle Obama said, regardless of what income you make, and you may make a lucrative one, this will affect you some way, somehow. So let's do what we got to do to help our community and help the fellow man. And I will see you later.
Bye, guys.